Hey everybody, welcome to Smashing Game Time. We are two brothers that go through gaming's back catalog of yesteryear. I am your host, Nick. I am joined, as always, by my not twin, but brother, Josh.
I don't know why you had to throw a non-twin, but okay.
Well, for those who don't know, we're about the same size, right, Josh?
Relatively, yeah.
Give or take a few stones here and there. And throughout our lifetime, people have thought we were the twins because your twin is, well, he's not as skinny mini as he used to be, but he's a little guy.
He can still eat more than me and not gain a pound. So
It's fucked up, isn't it?
it's very fucked up.
I had what was left of my son's fruit snacks, just a little baggie of fruit snacks, and I was like, this one little fruit snack's gonna sit in my thighs for the rest of my life, isn't it? Even working out, it's just gonna stay there, isn't it? It's sad.
You have to either have to get surgery, the little sleeve, or just stop eating.
I've taken the latter lately. I see the fruit snack, I throw the fruit snack away. I throw it away.
That's even worse for you, right?
Yeah, because then your body's like, oh no, we're not getting anything. I guess I'll just try to hold on to everything as best I can. It really just does come down to like eating better.
Yeah, but even then, I feel like I've definitely changed my eating habits, and I'm not maybe working out as hard as I used to back in the day, but I still work out, and I'm like, why am I still so big? Why can't I just, I'm not asking for a lot, 20 pounds.
It's the dairy for me. I'm going to an Oscars party here in a few days. By the time you hear this, actually we're going to record again before I leave. But my suit, it fits, but I would like it to be a little less snug. So if I could lose 10 pounds between now and then, I think that'd be really awesome.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I'm going to ride the bike after I edit this episode. So it'll be the second time today. So I'm excited for it.
For everybody who is curious what Nick means, it's actually code for he's going to purge whatever he had for dinner.
I had fish tacos, which weren't bad. They weren't bad. I threw a little ranch on them, so that's my problem. I threw some ranch on them.
So yeah, I made some fire steaks with some green beans and a potato.
That does sound really good. Did you have anything on the potato?
Just a little bit of butter. That's it.
Okay. Well, see, that's the other issue. Like Gus, my son, really loves making pancakes right now, and we've made pancakes probably 3 times this week.
See that? Okay, well, wait. Are you throwing syrup on it too? Then
throwing syrup on it. I'm doing the butter on them.
I mean, if you do just the butter, it's fine. But
having
if you're
a cup of milk,
the syrup, like that's what gets you is the syrup.
I know, but like, why the fuck? If I'm gonna make pancakes, I'm gonna put syrup on them. But I'm making them from scratch. These are really good from scratch pancakes.
Nick, I assume you're also that guy. Anytime he makes Pop-Tarts, you put butter on top of it, don't you? And let it melt in the microwave.
Wait, people do that?
People do that. Apparently, it's really good.
Well, I haven't had a Pop-Tart probably in 10 years, and I've never had butter on a Pop-Tart.
I haven't either, but I'm not gonna lie. I saw that and I'm like, I wouldn't say no, because I mean it's been a long time since I've had Pop-Tart, but I'm like, it has to. I don't know. It has to be like a certain flavor. I don't know if I want to put like butter on like a cookies and cream or a sundae. It'd have to be like maybe a cherry or a blueberry even. But even then, that's still pushing it.
When I was younger, my favorite flavors were like the chocolate chip, the cookies and cream, like the sugary ones that you would get at breakfast at school. But now, like, if you're like gun to my head, like, Nick, you have to go get Pop-Tarts. Go, what are you gonna get? What are you gonna get, you son of a bitch? And you're like, the gun's cocked, it's in my mouth, and I'm probably gonna go strawberry or cherry.
I definitely go cherry or blueberry. Only because when we were kids, we always got the cinnamon ones, and that shit was burnt out of my tongue completely. I can't do it.
When I can remember, like, actually burning my tongue on those.
I still remember burning my tongue on that stone.
That stone?
Yeah, remember when you make pizzas, pizza stones?
Yeah.
One time I was like, oh, I think Jake dared me. He's like, I dare you to lick it, and I licked it when it just came out of the oven, and I burnt my tongue.
You fucking idiot. Well, you know what? I got my tongue in 5th grade. I was part of the crossing guard. Like I helped the crossing guard in the morning.
Oh, that's right. You'd lick the pole.
I licked because I didn't think it was true. I didn't think you could get stuck in the cold, and then I did. And then she threw her hot drink on my tongue, and that was the first time I ever had coffee.
And you learn never to do that again.
And I've been a coffee drinker ever since. But yeah,
That's when you got
butter
addicted.
on Pop-Tarts. No. We're gonna shift away from that. We're gonna get into the show. Hey, if you didn't already know, if you didn't already snooze off from the Pop-Tart talk, this is Smashing Game Time. We've got an exciting show today. We're going to talk about the games we've been playing. We're going to cover some news, and then we're going to do our first tier list. And the last one was like Zelda back in May of last year, so it's almost
Back when Jake was still here.
back when Jake was still here. In fact, I think it was the one time Josh wasn't on an episode that we did that.
Yeah. I think I was in Mexico.
You might have been in Mexico doing some dirty deals. Josh runs with the cartel, in case you were wondering.
Hell yeah, baby.
How fun would it be if like just saying that puts you on a list somewhere?
I think fun is the wrong word to use in this context here, Nick.
Josh comes back to the next podcast missing a hand or two. But all cartel talk aside, we're going to do a Final Fantasy tier list. We're going to rank every Final Fantasy that's on the tier list that we're using. So there's some oddballs on there, but we're doing all the numbered main titles in there. So check that out here in a little bit. But first, before we get into that, let's get some show stuff out of the way. Hey, we've got a website. It's called smashinggametime.com. Go over there, check it out. I have weekly journals. Josh is yet to put out his first journal. It's coming, I swear.
Actually, I'll probably end up doing it tomorrow after I get done cleaning my garage.
I'll believe it when I see it, Josh.
I know.
I'll believe it when I see it. Also going to start doing some thought pieces over there. I've got one about Nuclear Blaze that I've been working on, so keep an eye out for that. We are wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube podcasts, and we're on YouTube proper, where you can see our beautiful faces. In lieu of leaving a rating and review, we say, fuck the algorithm, tell a friend. That's right. The machines don't run this shit. You do. So go tell everybody you know. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your moms, tell your dads, tell your stepdads, tell your stepmoms to go listen to Smashing Game Time. Speaking of games, Josh, I guess I'll go first this week.
Yeah, go first, Nick. Go ahead.
Slower week. We're recording on Saturday this week, and I'm just I finished up Ultros for review. I know I was spitting that hate last week. And I was just about done, but I played a little more of it, and it's still got its faults. It's still got some pacing issues. It's still there's still some things I would change about it, but when it comes to like the meta narrative that it's doing about the cycle of changes and that, like, how much time change takes, and the violent tendencies of Metroidvanias, or the player's violent tendencies when it comes to Metroidvanias, I think it's saying some pretty smart stuff. I just wish it didn't bring it to a screeching halt sometimes. I wish it was a little more deliberate about those arguments that it was making. I mentioned in my review over on Game Chronicles, go check it out. I mentioned in my review, there's this thing called the Living Network, where you have to carry this live stream between like plants and the machines that you're using. And it's like this beautiful like statement about, just connecting these things. And it really makes you think about the plants that you're planting to like be able to make the connections more properly, because the stream can break in so many steps. I still have, so usually when I'm done reviewing a game, I uninstall it. But if there's a game where I'm like, I might go back and spend some time in this. Ultros is still on the Steam Deck. It's still on the PC proper. I might go back and finish that live, Living Network. So yeah, go check out that review. That's another one I could see myself doing a write-up on a little further down the road once I've completed that Living Network. But who knows? Another game I'm playing. This time last year, I played Inkulinati, the early access release. I thought it was a fun little tactics strategy side scroller that really delved into its theme, which is the little, like when you open an old book and it's got like the little caricatures of animals that like kind of look like religious, but they also look goofy. Yep. That's essentially what the game is going for. the balance is much better now. I remember playing in early access. There were characters in that game that had so all of your beasts, like at the beginning of a turn they wake up. I'm gonna take these headphones off for a minute. So if you say something, I'm sorry, Josh. My ears are just hot. I can read your lips. It's whatever. For example, there's an early enemy called a donkey, and at the beginning of turn, your players' characters are all awake. Your enemy's characters are all awake. After you do their turn, they fall asleep. The donkey, I believe, could awaken a bunch of enemies or put a bunch of enemies to sleep. It was just severely overpowered. Like there were other characters much later in the game that I think it was like a skeleton, like a mariachi skeleton crew that just destroyed you. I just ran into a character actually, which if you're standing in fire on the map and he uses his attack, it's a 15 HP attack that automatically kills just about anything. So I thought that was a little overpowered right now, but that's really the only one that I feel is still overpowered now that the game is 1.0. Feels much more balanced. Feels like things are running along. The story is just your basic. Your master was killed, so you're going to get revenge. You go through these 3 different maps, fight these bosses, and then you have to fight death at the end to reclaim your master's life. I don't believe there's online play. I think everything's just local, which is okay. Like from a Steam Deck standpoint, that's pretty cool. Like, oh, I played my turn, let me hand it off to you. I think that's pretty neat. But weird that they don't have online play. Super weird.
I mean, it can be complicated sometimes.
Because I've dug through the menus and I haven't seen anything. Maybe I missed it. I need to go back in and look, but it didn't look like there was anything in there for it.
It could be on their roadmap too. It might be something further down the line they'll do.
I need to go back and review the roadmap. I try not to look at those for review because I always feel like, well, it's not really related. Like, shouldn't really be a thing. But there's always a tendency in me to like, you know what? Anyone who gives a shit enough to read the reviews is going to go look at the roadmap and see if I'm an idiot that didn't look at the roadmap. So I'm just going to fucking look at the roadmap. It's whatever. So review for that will be coming. I've got 2 more games after that I need to clear out that I'm on review for that I want to clear out before I go to LA so that when I get back, I have a clean fucking slate, Josh. I need a clean fucking slate.
Trust me, I do too. Mark's probably like, these sons of fucking bitches.
Where the fuck are these? How is that? Are you? We're friends with him on Steam. He probably sees us on Helldivers. He's like, what the fuck is this? It's like when a parent finds your drugs under your match. The fuck is this?
Just rolls out the bag of weed. What's this?
Unrolls the bag and it's Helldivers and Fortnite. Excuse me? In this house? Speaking of those, yeah, I've been playing Fortnite a lot more. This season comes to an end. By the time you hear this, I think there are just a few more days left. So when this comes out on Monday, I think it ends on Thursday, right when I go out of town. I'm excited so this season right now is called Underground. They added a train, very apexy of them. What else did they do? Weapons have attachments now that you can buy at workstations, so different scopes, different suppressors, different balances on the gun to help with feedback and recoil and hard aiming. The abilities, they took the what were they called? Where you got they took the abilities away. I forget what those are called. And so the new season that's coming out is apparently Greek god themed. And it's looking, like if it goes the way I think it's going to go, like I'm hoping for like multiple boss fights. I'm hoping for all these different powers because it's sounding like, and I never got to play the season with Thanos where everyone had all these powers. I don't know if you played that one, but it's sounding like there's going to be a lot of powers going around. Like anytime there have been powers in the past, I've kind of fallen off, but I feel like I'm going to stay for this one. I feel like I'm going to hang in there because I've just been enjoying Fortnite a lot more, especially since characters have gotten more mobile in the last few years. The mantle and the sprint have really changed that game to more positive for me. I've been playing way less builds, but I'm trying to get back into it. It's been tough trying to remember to build because even when I'm playing builds now, it feels like no one else is building except for the sweats.
Yeah, I mean that sounds about. Right. If I play it, I'm not going to be building.
Well, yeah, and so I think the default has become no build mode, and then when people go back and play build mode, it just feels like a wild west. It's kind of crazy. I'm kind of enjoying that aspect of it. The other live game. Speaking of live games, I've been playing Helldivers 2. I got more of it. Played it with you and Jake. I have not played with randoms yet because I love myself and love my time too much to do that to myself. I've heard that randoms have been very, very bad though. Like,
I mean, it goes one of three ways. You either get randoms that are really awful and just terrible, which I mean, you're going to get that in every game. You get the traders who will basically just constantly kill you, or you get the real tryhards who are telling you what to use a meta, and even the developers coming out saying, "Okay, guys, we're only giving you 4 like basic components of each weapon. There's like 40 other things that like aren't being told to you, so don't believe what the stats are saying. There could be a weapon that you're choosing that is actually awful compared to the rest, but all these people are being tryhards."
the devs are swatting. I'm like, hey, stop that. Just have fucking fun. Stop trying to like science. Stop trying to math this. Just play the game.
Well, then people are losing their mind over the dungeon master Joel.
Joel, I just found out about Joel today. I was listening to something and somebody mentioned Joel.
Yeah, people are losing their minds. Like, oh my god, there's been a guy the whole time. It's like, well, I mean, I imagine there is. There's a reason why they're introducing these new. We're getting mechs, we're getting vehicles. There's supposed to be apparently a third race that we get introduced to.
I think they were from the original Helldivers. I'm excited for whatever Joel has planned. I will follow Joel into the mouth of hell. Helldivers 2, we played a few games where we landed right into a bug's nest and ended up having like a horde of like 4 or 5 chargers. Like we would kill a charger and then more chargers would come. More chargers are probably my least favorite bug. For those who don't know, just think of like a mill tank from Pokemon Gold, but like big and they just run you over. So yeah, basically mill tank.
Nick, you haven't even gotten to the Bile Titans though.
No, I haven't. I'm still a little behind you guys.
I say you think chargers are bad. Bile Titans are 10 times worse.
Are they huge?
Oh yeah.
I kind of want to see one. I'm gonna look it up here in a little bit. But I'm enjoying Helldivers 2. I can kind, you know what, the way this game is going, I could kind of see Fortnite ripping it off and doing their. Like, wouldn't that be because Fortnite was essentially a survival game? They kind of had like it wasn't the same as Helldivers 2, but it was a PvE originally.
It's awful.
So I could see Fortnite circling back and being like, "Hey, we brought back Save the World, but it's bugs now."
I could see them doing it.
You know what? Let's put that one in the bank, and then when it happens, I can be like, "I told you so. I told you all so."
Wow, the Epic Games couldn't come up with anything different. They have to copy someone else's homework again.
They copy the homework. So that's what I've been playing. Like I said, been a slower week, but hopefully things will pick back up here in the next week as I clear out the rest of these reviews. Josh, what have you been playing?
So yeah, I mentioned playing Helldivers 2, Nick. I won't get too much more into that. I went back and started playing The Evil Within 2 because I bought this game when it first came out. Nick, ask me how far I got into it.
Josh, how far did you get into it?
I was probably only 15 minutes into it.
Well, you know, I've had games like that where you buy it and then you're like, I'm going to play the shit out of this. And then something just, either another game comes out and really takes all the time, or it's just a point in life where it's like, fuck, I got like 50 things.
See, and I couldn't remember what it was because I went back because it was back when I was playing Xbox. I had bought it for that. And I was like, what came out that stopped me from going back and playing it again? I couldn't remember to save my life. I have to actually look into it. But I picked it back up while I was waiting for Rebirth to come out. I'm a little bit farther than that now. I'm probably 30 minutes into it.
God damn it, Josh.
No, I've also said I'm like 2 hours into it now.
And he never played it again.
No, I only stopped because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth came out. I'm 9 hours deep into it right now. Uh, I'm just gonna go ahead and Nick, just in case I don't want to piss people off, and I might say something that might be somewhat spoiler-like. So let's throw a spoiler alert on this bitch.
Let's see what's the time marker here. Let me write this down. Writing it down right now. All right, I've written down 25:30. All right, go ahead.
Perfect. All right, so I finished the. I'm all the way. I'm in the Junin area right now. So for those who have played Final Fantasy VII, a 25-year-old game now.
So wait, hold on. So you're talking about you're playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Correct.
Okay.
But for those who have played the original Final Fantasy VII for the PS1, that is basically the roadmap of this game. So no spoilers there. I'm in the Junin area, so I just got through the Mithril Cave, which for those who aren't sure what that is called, or what that is, it's the cave right after the giant snake in the fucking sand pits.
Is the giant snake cool?
Oh yeah.
Is it still like? Can you still skip over it?
No. It is a mandatory fight.
Okay.
And how they did it, which is why I'm throwing on here, is so cool. So you run into, so you have to, first off, it's not, and it wasn't actually a sand pit apparently. It is actually a marsh, like a wetlands.
I always assumed that, Josh.
I thought it was sand.
Younger Josh, just an idiot.
Younger Josh is an idiot. He couldn't figure out how to do the code for the spaceship.
So it's splashing. It must be sand.
I thought it was sand.
No, how could it was like a milky, mildewy color, and you thought it was sand in the original Final Fantasy VII?
But it looks like a wasteland when you fight him in his area. It doesn't look like a marsh.
It's all green around it.
No, it's not.
Yes.
It's like dead.
Yes, but it's green.
No, you're talking about in the fight scene when you're fighting the thing.
Josh, the area is called the Greenlands. It was called the Greenlands in the original.
It's called the Greenlands where the Chocobo farm is. Past that it's a marsh in the Rebirth, but in the original it looks like sand, and when you fight it in the playback area, it looks like just dead land.
Josh, I'm looking at the overworld map from the original right now. It is a lighter shade of green.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You're talking about where the sand, the area where you actually see the snake.
Yes.
I'm calling bullshit.
No. It's the first map. If you type in Juno Town, it's one of the first maps that pops up.
Juno Town?
Whatever the town is you're in, it pulls. I have the overworld map from Final Fantasy VII pulled up. And the area where the snake is a light, mushy green. Josh.
I'm looking it up right now because I'm calling bullshit, Nick.
No, you were fucking stupid.
I am not fucking stupid.
Look at him looking.
Damn it. Wait, are you looking at it looks like more detailed?
No, it's just a shitty little map that's literally probably pulled from the game. It's from jagged.com.
Okay, we're getting way out of context.
All right, get back to okay, so Rebirth.
So Rebirth, the snake, you fight it. It's really cool. At one point, once you beat it, Cloud gets dragged down into the water. And he's basically being choked to death in the water. Guess who appears? Just guess, Nick. Sephiroth shows up, and guess what he does?
He says, "No, not like this. I'm the one who gets to choke you."
He doesn't. He first says, "I'm your daddy." Then he does that. No, he literally, the snake goes after him. He hits it, sends it flying into the air, and then it lands through the tree trunk like the original when you walked up to the cave and you saw the snake that was like dead.
Mm-hmm.
It does that scene.
So essentially, it gives you that first snake. It shows you that first snake.
Yep.
So I wonder if, like, you were to return to the area later, if there would be a second optional snake.
So when I beat the cutscene was over and it was technically beaten, it definitely said I could swim in that area now without a chocobo because it was gone.
You know what? The game is still so new. I feel like if you returned in a few hours, I feel like you might be surprised by a second snake.
Well, I was also upset because if those who remember in the original, if you fought the snake and you got it to a certain health point, it came up and it used beta. And you could learn that enemy skill. Well, I don't know if I could learn it now. I have to look it up. But I didn't have enemy skill equipped on me, so when he used it, I didn't even get it.
What is beta again?
Beta was like, it looked like a mushroom cloud basically. In the game, it did fire damage. It was like one of the best. Like, if you got it early, it was like one of the best enemy skills to have.
Sounds like you need to load an old save and go back and fight Mr. Snake.
I just need to look up to see if it's even available, because if not, I'll have to go back and get it. It's not a big deal. But how they do enemy skills in this is a little different. Same with summons. How do you get them?
So who's in your party at this point? It's everybody. It's
Everybody but Yuffie, Sid, and Vincent.
It's a fairly small party, right? Like I remember 7 not having like the largest party.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's see. So it's 5 people right now, and it gets up to 8.
I think you get up to.
And even then, technically, oh, actually, no, it's 9. You're right, because of Kate Sith. I forgot. Technically, you could skip Vincent and you could skip Yuffie. Those were both technically optional characters in the original.
Are they optional this time? I feel like
No.
because Yuffie had the
Yuffie had the DLC.
DLC,
and then Vincent. There's been, I mean, tons of cutscenes about him and Sid and Kate Sith. So we know we get the rest of the characters in this one.
right?
But I mean, the overworld is definitely different, but in a good way. I've enjoyed every bit of it so far. The side quests are fantastic. The mini games, there's Queen's Blood, which essentially is like a card chess game. Pretty fun. You've got the Fort Condor board game. It's a strategy game, which actually is a lot of fun too.
So, question story-wise, and again, I mean, we're under a spoiler banner, so woo. So I remember who were the guys like trying to keep the timeline clean? Is it the Fates or whatever they're called?
The Wisp or
the Whispers or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything with them? Have they been like kind of like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing over here with that snake?
No, but the beginning of the game fucking throws you for a loop, and I'm still trying to figure it out because it hasn't been explained yet.
What are they?
Do you remember what Final Fantasy VII's original ending, or the remake, what original ending was?
Remake's original ending is that no, I don't.
So it ends with everybody fighting Sephiroth right at the edge of town, and you basically break through fate, or what is considered fate. So you are then leaving Midgar, but it goes back and shows that Zack survived the onslaught of Shinra when he's protecting Cloud, and you see him walking back towards Midgar. It picks up right after that, and Zack's watching the channel, or he's like watching the Shinra news, and it talks about how there was like a natural disaster going on, which shows a tornado hit Midgar, which is exactly what happened at the end of Remake. And he still has Cloud on him, but he sees on the camera, he sees Red, Eris, Barrett, and Tifa being loaded into a chopper.
So
and then you play as Zack going to rescue Aerith, or Eris, wherever they cut technically. I think it's Aerith.
I wish the Wisp would be like, no, pick a name, just pick one. Pick one.
I think it's Aerith. I think Eris was the translation error. That's why I'm like, wait a minute, I get it mixed up. Anyway, so he goes in, he rescues, or he stops them from leaving it, but he grabs Aerith and takes her away. And it almost appears like she died, because it looks like she drops the holy materia from her head for a ponytail onto the floor. And that's how it ends. And then it picks up right where everybody's at Calm, talking about the past.
Okay, so that's how the game ended. Yeah, I mean, there's a news story about that changing, though, right?
What do you mean?
There's
past story?
We've got a news story. We can get to it later, but
Oh, we're talking about the original ending. All they did was change a line for that. We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. So you're nowhere near finished. I'm hearing this game is like 80-ish.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm literally 9 hours in. I'm just getting to the Junin area. Like, if I focused on the story, I'd probably be a little bit past the golden saucer, maybe.
Dude, Lord help you when you get to Lord help you when you get to Golden Saucer. You're gonna waste so much time there.
Dude, I really hope they have all the arcade games. I want to fucking play the motorbike games so
You're
bad.
gonna waste so much time there, and I'm ready to hear about it. Combat wise, it still feel pretty much the same as remake, or did they add some extra bells and whistles?
So they did change, at least from memory, they did change Cloud's a little bit. His Punisher mode, it feels like I feel like it's a little harder to control, and it definitely moves in a different way. Um, Other than that, really, it's not combat wise. Really, isn't much of a difference. They've added some cool new things, skill wise. Like Cloud can now throw like blade beams of his blade at enemies, and they can have different elements to it. So like the one I mainly use now is wind, but it can have fire, ice, earth, all that shit. And then how they did the leveling system is a little different compared to remake.
Oh,
Uh,
that's a good place to stop you real quick. Where does
yeah,
how does the stuff from does anything from remake carry over, or does it just like, oh hey, you're
nope,
all level 50 now, so here you
no.
go.
So everybody starts at 15, and if you had a save of Final Fantasy remake, you got the Chocobo and Mog summoning. If you had Intergrade saved as well, you got the Rama summoning.
So that's it. There's no like level carry, no stat carryover.
Nope, nothing carries over. I had to look it up too because I was like, well, I'm curious. The only thing that carried over is if you did the demo, you got to skip over the past from what it went over, and it did from uh, the beginning of it all the way up to where Sephiroth burns the town.
Man, that's really weird. That is really really weird.
They did say it's going to be their own games. Its own, like each one is its own game in the trilogy. So no
Hmm.
matter what, it's not going to carry over. But there is going to be a bonus if you completed them or if you have the saves.
My brain is just way too simple to to accept that. It's like, oh wow, you have this trilogy, but all the leveling's different. It's kind of, I'm trying to remember if Mass Effect's levels, like if you carried from 1 to 2, the levels didn't really matter. It was like you carrying the story stuff, because
Oh, I
there's,
can tell you that actually.
huh?
I can tell you that if you maxed out your character, um, you skipped like the first 10 levels. I think you're like level 10
Okay.
instead of level 1. And then if you had Paragon or Renegade all the way up when you start, you were like a good chunk started already, so you could actually like do early Renegade or early Paragon things.
So there's no choice stuff in remake that carries over to Rebirth, right?
No, not really.
Like, oh
No.
hey, you saved this kid that was falling when the place was blowing up, and then you run into him later at Gold Saucer, like
I
begging
will
for
admit,
coins.
if you haven't played remake, some of the side characters they've introduced you may not know because you did them through side quest. Otherwise, there's not much of a difference. There's one group of guys totally forgot who they were, and I had to look it up, and I'm like, oh, that was a long time ago. It's been a while since I played it, and they're just a random group of bad guys that you fought.
And they're just bad. I love it when a game does that though.
Like even like the selections are like, who are you? What are you doing here? Because I'm like, I don't fucking remember these guys. And that's the joke. Is Cloud even does the same thing, and they're fucking like, you don't remember us. It's like, oh, okay.
I've and I haven't played the game in case anyone was wondering, but I've seen some stuff online. Like I've seen Red 12 riding a chocobo, which was very cute.
It's so fucking funny. People are losing their minds over it, but I'm like, I mean, yeah, I agree. It's a little weird, but I want to see what he looks like in his disguise.
All I know is Josh is going to spend 100 hours on this game, and 90 hours of it is going to be paused on the swimsuit scene when he gets to it.
There's no pausing. I'm recording that shit.
Well, yeah, the game's going to be running in the background while you're just running that on a loop, making the GIF of it.
It's gonna be on my main screen. All you're gonna hear is square being mashed as I fight the enemies to farm XP, and you're gonna hear nothing but like lotions being slapped on my skin left and right.
Oh Jesus! I thought the square being bashed was the
No,
euphemism for what
left
you were
left
saying.
left hand doing this,
Uh,
right hand doing
All
this.
right, Two Chains. All right, this is a family show. This is a family show. Damn it.
Left hand on that controller. Yeah,
So,
okay.
and I'm sure you've heard rumblings, but it sounds like the game does end where we thought it would end.
Which I figured. I mean, it's a trilogy, guys. We kind of. I mean, honestly, in all honesty, it's relatively the same spot.
You mean
It's
they?
like
Wait a minute. Time out. You mean they ended the sequel where the climax of the trilogy? Are you kidding me? Are you
I
kidding
know people,
me?
and people are like, "Oh," it's like, guys. I mean,
So we don't
once
know.
again, the original is the fucking roadmap.
So there's been speculation. Are they gonna kill Aerith again? Are they not gonna kill Aerith? What are they gonna do? I don't know. Josh doesn't know. Josh says he has some theories though.
I do. I have two theories, and I could be completely off, guys. I've been avoiding spoilers left and right for this reason. I want to find out myself. I don't want someone on Reddit Reddit or on TikTok to do it for me. I want to do it myself. I want to put in those 80 hours. That's why I haven't ruined God of War Ragnarok yet. Anywho, so
What are
my
the
two
theories?
theories. My first theory is Zack kills Aerith.
Do you have something to back up this crackpot theory?
Well, based on what I've seen in what I've played so far, is Zack appears to be alive, but I don't know if it's a different timeline that's merging or if he came from a timeline where he did survive. So I'm thinking time is somehow involved now since fate is no longer a part of it.
Okay.
So it's either going to be Zack and or Cloud, however you want to look at it. And if it's not that,
Wait, why would either of them kill her though?
I think one of them is working with Sephiroth.
All right, carry on.
Because for those who have played Crisis Core, there are two other characters that are possibly canon right now, which is Angel and Genesis.
Are those Sephiroth clones?
No, so Angel is also another first class soldier. He's the one who kind of helped Wu Tai um, fight Shinra, sort of, after he betrayed Shinra. And then Angel is also the same thing. They're different. They're like clones of a different scientist. I can't get into too much details because it's been a while since I played that.
Man, this
But
Final Fantasy VII lore is some bullshit.
so I think somehow they're involved to some extent. But I do think one of our main characters, Zack or Cloud, end up working with Sephiroth, and Aerith dies no matter what. My other theory is Cloud dies.
Yeah, I think that was one that I was speculating too.
And I only think that because another spoiler, Nick, for you, probably. After you get done talking about the past, Tifa and Aerith go to bed, and Tifa goes, "Know what's weird? Is I remember that night, and Cloud wasn't there." And she goes to confront him about it. And she's
Which
getting
wait,
ready
which night? Which night?
so the same night that they're talking about the past.
Oh, we're okay.
It's
So
night. It's nighttime.
after they get out
So
of Midgar, they're talking about the past.
yes, they get to calm. It's nighttime, and they're talking about the past. They talked about it. They all went to bed. They have separate rooms. Tifa goes, "I remember that night, and he wasn't there. Where has he been for the past 5 years? And even before that, where was he?" And so she goes to his room, knocks on the door, says, "Hey, can we chat upstairs?" They go upstairs, and she's going to confront him about it. And as they're going to talk, Cloud goes, "I was pretty sure you died that night. There was so much blood. How are you alive?" And she's like, "Are you kidding me?" Shows her wound and goes, "You know, the doctors, or no, my master saved me, brought me down the mountain from the reactor, took me to the doctors who saved my life, to the nurses who took care of me. Where were you? Where have you been these past 5 years?" And Cloud starts to have like his brain aneurysm, and he starts to like freak out, and he goes, "I can't talk about that." So it's like, okay, what's going on that, you know, in the original, Tifa was like, "Yeah, Cloud was there. He saved my life," and never got brought back up. And now it's like Tifa's questioning it, like, "Dude, where were you? You weren't there."
My theory is Cloud, Cloud, just like Titus, isn't real. That's right. You didn't know you were getting Final Fantasy X spoilers.
Oh. Well, you know the theory of Final Fantasy X, right?
Oh God, tell me.
So in 10-2, there's a character called Shinra, and it's speculated that he is like the founder of Shinra, who lives on whatever the planet that X takes place in, and it's believed that he actually builds a rocket, takes it to space, finds the planet that Final Fantasy VII is on, founds the company Shinra, and that's how it all starts.
I was not aware of this theory, and I'm even madder that I know about it. I'm so mad that I asked. Josh, you're going to keep up with this because it's a $70 game, so I'm sure you're gonna want to squeeze all the juice out of this game.
I mean, I'm going through every piece of lore it's throwing at me right now because I mean, honestly, with Remake, there were so many questions. I loved what they did something. Square Enix has done something that everybody I hate when they complain about a remake. Complains about is, oh, it's the same game. Yes, I agree. For the most part, like 80% of it, it's the same game. However, they've thrown so many twists and turns and changed it just enough that I'm like, holy shit, it is a remake, but it's its own thing. It's doing its own little gimmick, and I want to know what's going on. There's so much going on right now.
It's just another metaverse.
I mean, yeah, true. But I mean, if you're going to sit here, like, think for everybody who complained about like Dead Space or Resident Evil 4 remake, yeah, they are the exact fucking same games. Let's be honest, with some minor twist or some small details that changed.
I think horror games get like a bit. I think when you're remaking horror, I think you get a little more leeway to just like, oh hey, you kind of want the same-ish thing with a few extra bells and whistles. Okay, here you go. Because I think when I'm looking at horror games, I'm looking at like horror movies as well, and like the remakes are they're on the same boat there because you're not really going in for the story. What you're going in for is the scare.
Right.
Whereas Final Fantasy is more of the, oh hey, like you want these characters, we've delivered these characters in this heartfelt story before, let us deliver that story again, but let us put a new spin on it.
Right. Like I said, I think it's for what it is, it's much better compared to what other remakes we've gotten or, remasters, whatever. Yeah, yes, it's a remake. However, it's fucking good. There's so much change to it. There's some things that, I wish they would tweak a little better, but for what it is right now, worth the $70 I spent on it.
All right. Well, hey, we'll check back in again with you next week, see where you're at with it. Let me write down the end of spoilers. Wow, Josh talked about Final Fantasy for
a long time.
Almost. 20 minutes here.
22 minutes. 20 minutes. That's impressive.
22 minutes, you son of a bitch. We got a podcast to finish here.
Well, since we did all that, Nick, you ready for the news?
Read all about it. Latest football scores. Morning paper. Morning Star. Paper, mister?
It's time for old news. Josh, what we got on the news here?
Well, let's go ahead and start with, since we're on the track of Final Fantasy, let's go ahead and not derail it just yet. For those not aware, there was a new patch that came out for Final Fantasy VII Remake. Basically, they changed one line, and no one knows why.
Yeah, so this is an article from The Gamer from Joshua Robertson. Joshua Robertson, thank you. Josh, what was the line changed, and what did they change it to?
So before the patch, Aerith would look up at the sky at the very end and go, I miss it, the steel sky. For those who don't know, it's in reference to she used to stare up. She was in Sector 6 slums. She would look up at the sky and she would see the plates of Midgar, so where all the rich live. That's what she was referring to. Where now she says, this sky, I don't like it. That's it.
This sky, I don't like it.
So with this one, it to me at least, they
have it here. Can we listen? Let's listen in.
Do it. I don't know how long the videos. Let's do it though.
This sky, I don't like it.
I would be lost, drifting alone, floating.
Do they not have the original? No. Okay, so that was the new one. You know, I don't. So it was originally I Miss the Sky, or I Don't Like. What was the original again?
I Miss It, The Steel Sky.
I Miss It, The Steel Sky. This sky, I don't like it. You know, maybe that ending, the new ending line, is maybe a little more foreshadowing.
So the common theory that everybody's talked about is it's more of a reference to Crisis Core.
It's the fucking lore, man.
Which makes sense. I mean, they remade Crisis Core for the PS5, and I did play it a little bit. Honestly, so for what, it's a lot different of a game compared to, you know, most Final Fantasies, because it was more of a, like, what would you call it, more of a action game, but it also had like a real system where like you would like have a slot go, and depending on what you got on the slot, you'd get like a boost up or a power up or whatever. It was actually decent of a game. It just people pitched so much because it was on the PSP.
But yeah, the line change. I mean, if you care enough to know that there's a line change, I guess you care enough if it's a reference to something. So I guess that tracks.
I mean, it does add a little bit of like, I do wonder like, why exactly did you wait till after the game? But then it makes me think, okay, well, it's got to have something to do with what happens in Rebirth. That's the only reason why they would do it, in my opinion.
This guy, I don't like it. Yeah, maybe there's something she says in the game where, like, if someone heard that and was like thinking about the ending of a remake, they'd be like, wait a minute, those things don't line up. So maybe.
It just makes me wonder, like, is it in reference to what happens in Crisis Core? Because for those who aren't aware, at the end of Crisis Core, Zack Fair dies. He ends up fighting the army of Shinra to protect Cloud and basically sacrifices himself. Cloud then kind of awakens from his comatose state to find Zack laying there, basically dying, and takes his sword.
All right,
and that's where it ends.
Well, I'm marking more spoilers now because if anyone came in thinking the spoilers were done, this asshole.
Why would you? Crisis Core is like a 20-year-old game.
Okay. All right.
I'm just saying.
All right. And your point is, you know, I'm surprised. You know what this has taught us is that the Wisp aren't in the Square Enix office whipping someone for changing the lines. They don't have the Wisp whirling around them, making sure shit doesn't change.
Well, at that point, fate had already changed, so it doesn't matter.
Man, whatever, man. I don't. You Final Fantasy kids in your lore, I just don't get you. What do you got next?
On to more even sad news. Nick, remember Let Me Solo Her?
Yeah, the guy who would go and solo Millennia in Elden Ring. You could summon him and he would fight her for you.
Yeah, so he is kind of planning on stop his fight with her when the DLC comes out.
You know what? That's fair. The game is 2 years old at this point. He's soloed Millennia enough. He wants to go solo other people. They you know what? Hey, relationships, they start, they end. So is the way of life. And you know, you don't be sad that it's over. You be happy that it happened.
Yeah, and well, at this point, it's reported he's beat her like 6,000 to 7,000 times.
That seems low.
It does, but in retrospect, Nick, think about this. If you fight her, let's just do the math here real quick. I'm going to pull the calculator out.
Well, and I think that's low. That sounds low because the man is a meme at this point.
So if he fought her 10 times a day,
okay,
for a whole year, that's 3,650 times. If we multiply that by 2 years, 7,300. So basically, roughly about, I would say, 9 times a day he beat her ass to the ground for the past 2 years. He's tired, guys. He's put up the fight. It's time for him to rest.
But don't you want, like, if you were Let Me Solo Her, wouldn't you want to get to 10,000?
Nick, what's your favorite? What is your favorite boss fight of all time that you can go back and play it no matter what?
Well, before I name my favorite boss fight, this is from Game Rant from Dane Inario. Thank you for the lovely article over there on Game Rant. My favorite boss, it'd probably be something from a Metal Gear game. It'd probably be the end. In which case, no, I don't want to do that 10,000 times because that boss fight, like after you're done with it after one time.
Exactly. The fact that he's done it this many times since then, though, very impressive. You have to give him that much. And he's probably done every single thing in between to like satisfy his like boredom tick. Like he's probably done from melee weapons to mage weapon. I mean, he's probably switched it up as many times as possible.
I know it's not the meme this week, but you could have done the Spider-Man meme where they're carrying him. They're like, careful, he's a hero. And it's let me solo her.
I could do that when Elden Ring's DLC comes out. That's what I'm going to do.
We're going to start putting these memes on the Instagram, Josh. We need the Instagrams.
We need it.
We need the Instagrams.
We need it.
What's next?
Well, more sad news. Sony, PlayStation, they cut 900 jobs and canceled a ton of games.
Yeah, so 900. So this is an article from GameSpot. Eddie McCooch, great name, Eddie, over there on GameSpot, writing this up. 900 people from PlayStation across the board. That's they closed the UK, London. People from Insomniac, Naughty Dog, and Guerrilla were affected. Fire Sprite was another one. The crazy part of this is the Insomniac part because, you know, you're looking at Spider-Man 2 and like all the news around that was that it was a hit. It was this big thing that like did buku dolores for them. And oh, hey, by the way, fucking you're fired. Like the Sony execs are Ferris Buellering them. They're walking out into the hall like, what are you still doing here? It's over. Go.
I mean, it shows that even with a successful year, actually successful few years they've had, that it just doesn't matter. Honestly, at this point, I feel like they're using COVID and overhiring as an excuse now. Because yes, a lot of people did overhire. Yes, a lot of people probably need to be let go. However, in PlayStation's catalog, they've had a very successful COVID compared to like Microsoft, compared to EA. Like we had Ratchet and Clank, which was successful. We had Spider-Man 2, which was successful. If you look at, just even like proprietary games for their console, God of War Ragnarok. And we've had all these huge successful games come in. They've had a huge year, huge numbers, and it still didn't matter. We still cut 900 jobs from it. And canceled games.
I think the issue comes back to games are just getting too big at this point. I mean, you look back at PS3, 360 era, and we had whole trilogies across like 6 years. I mean, all three Uncharted games from the original trilogy came out in the matter of a generation. Yeah, all three Gears of Wars came out in the matters of a generation. You had how many Halo games on the Xbox 360? Like three from Bungie and one from 343. You look at Nintendo. Nintendo's a little different because Nintendo's always like we have our console. We need to do one Zelda, one Mario, one Metroid. All right, on to the next one. And then you look at the next generation after the 360 generation and Xbox One and PS4. You see things start to slow to a crawl a little bit. You saw at the beginning of that generation, at least Sony leaning a little heavily on the remasters in the shape of The Last of Us being that first remaster, and then what's the Shadow of the Colossus? I guess that one was more of a remake though.
Yeah, but with the PS3, they did it with the PS4. There's allegedly a rumor that it's happening with the PS5 right now.
What, Shadow?
You
know what? I'm okay because I'm personally tired of the racing games being like this is the console at its power. And I'd be okay with, Shadow of the Colossus is like the game that we're just going to keep on like, hey, this is our showpiece every generation.
Which is fine, but don't make it $70. Don't make it $60. It's how old is Shadow of the Colossus?
Shadow of the Colossus was the probably the swan song of the PS2. I believe it was either 2005 or 2006.
So basically almost 20 years old.
It's a masterpiece, though.
I'm not saying it isn't, but just it's the same thing with The Last of Us. We had Last of Us Remastered. Then they remade it within the span of 10 years. I don't need all that.
Well, and look at Naughty Dog's trajectory over PS4, PS5, PS3, nothing but the Uncharted games, and then they finished up PS3 with The Last of Us, and then PS4. Since it was brand new and Last of Us, they didn't want to leave it behind. They brought it forward, and then they're like, okay, now you can do, all right, do Uncharted 4, do that. Okay, Uncharted 4 is done. Okay, do the Uncharted collection for us. Okay, hey, Last of Us 2. Okay, go ahead and do Last of Us 2. Like, if you look at their PS4 lineup, there's two original games in that. That are both sequels. Gorilla, I think has a more lined up run. Gorilla, they were Killzone guys, right?
Yes.
So they did Killzones for PS3, PS4, and then they kind of took a step back from the first person shooters and did the Horizon for the end of the PS4 era, and it's carrying over now. And then every time I look at Insomniac, I always get a little bummed out by that one because they felt like before they were acquired by Sony, they felt like the most out there, the most experimental, the most diverse library. I mean, I look back to the mid 2010s when they had Songs of the Deep right after they came off of the game they published with Microsoft, the Sunset Overdrive, and then they came back over and they had Spider-Man, but and I hate talking about leaks, but just to see that chart where like the next Ratchet and Clank wasn't until 2030, and everything they were doing was Marvel based. We don't have it listed here. We didn't pull a news story for it, but EA also had layoffs this week. I think theirs were closer to 500 or 600. Mm-hmm. And they also announced the cancellation of Respawn's Mandalorian first-person shooter.
Yep.
In the Star Wars universe, and a push towards not doing as much expansive IP, expanding on existing IPs, which I thought was. I mean, I agree with that because if I put Insomniac and Respawn in the same box as these super talented teams that had some really good, really innovative games, then were then acquired by a big publisher, and forced fed IP by the spoonful. Mm-hmm. Respawn's been doing Star Wars games. Apex has kind of been their bread and butter, but I think they've cut down to a skeleton crew on that, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep, skeleton crew.
And people clamor for Titanfall 3. I don't think Titanfall 3 is the answer, because if 2's any indicator, and yes, I know 2 had the disservice of being sandwiched between Battlefield and that Call of Duty that year, but it's just, I really hope we see a push away from IP and folks start to just make smaller games, to something to where like we get I mean, look at the gap between Final Fantasy Remake and Rebirth, and this is moving over to Square Enix, but look at that 4-year gap for a game that doesn't already exist, but they have the bones of it. Mm-hmm. They have the bones of it, and they know what the story is, and they're just throwing in stuff. Just look at, I mean, that's crazy. That's 4 years, and yes, we had COVID in there, so that probably added a year and a half.
But still, I mean, they even made 16 in the process, and 16 was fantastic.
It's crazy. Our hearts go out to everyone affected by all these layoffs. Hoping the best for all of you.
We also didn't include
crazy.
Nick, we also didn't include this because I feel really bad for the London office. They had this, I think it was the CEO or the president. They actually came and visited them a couple of days before they shut it down.
Yeah, Jim Ryan was on his retirement tour, went and saw them, and it's kind of just a big old fuck you.
And then Fire Sprite is now being accused of being a toxic work environment.
Huh. Who is Fire Sprite again? I forget what they were.
They're the guys who do all the VR games, basically. So they did like the Horizon VR game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't throw a rock without hitting a toxic work environment, so I'm not surprised by that.
It just cracks me up that it's all within the span of like a week that all the shit's coming out. It's like, guys, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's rough. What's this last story we got here, Josh?
Yeah, a new legend is born. So Pokemon Legends Z through A announced for the Switch, actually, which threw me off.
The fact that anything's getting announced for the Switch right now is crazy. This is an article over on GameSpot again from Steve Watts. Steve Watts, we appreciate you. Thank you. So Legends, what is Legend? What is the Legends series of Pokemon games? Because I'm not aware of what these are.
Okay, so basically think of it as like, so Pokemon games, at least that we've been playing, Nick, consider those modern times, right? Pokemon Legends is more of like kind of in the past. Like it's just when Pokemon were becoming like, catching them was like a thing. Like it was brand new.
Was Pokemon Arceus a Legends game?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay,
yeah,
so it's basically just it's gonna follow kind of like what Arceus. Okay, now I'm less confused. 'Cause I thought Legends was something even older. I forgot that it was Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Yeah, no, it's just Pokemon. Like I said, the games that we're used to playing are modern. These are technically in the past when Pokemon catching was like a thing.
They just throw their regular balls instead of throwing Pokeballs.
Yes, and it's like the Safari. They throw rocks at other Pokemon to try and capture them.
Get out of here! Get out of here!
If I make this one bleed, I can capture it.
The Safari Zone rules are: hey, if you make it bleed, you have to leave with it.
I fucking hate the Safari ones. Those are so fucking difficult.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to capture like that one, like you're trying to capture a Scyther.
Yeah, they only give you like what 30 or 20 minutes to go in there and do it.
Yeah, the time was like, was that actually on a timer or was that based on your? I feel like that was based on your steps, at least in the early generations.
Yeah, that might be right. I forget, it's been so long, but I just remember there was like some type of limit, so you had to do it quick.
Man, I can't believe Pokemon got away from the night-day cycle. Like Silver and Gold felt like revolutionary at the time because of those.
Dude, I still blows my mind that it took up until Ruby Sapphire to get a bike. The bikes blew my mind.
That, and then didn't Ruby Sapphire also introduce rain?
Yeah.
I love the weather. Man, we were talking about like streams we should start doing, and I think we should do that gold and silver side stream. I think that'd be dope.
Now, will we do the original Gold and Silver, or will we do the remakes for the DS?
The
Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Oh, which one do you think runs better on the emulator?
I think they both work good.
Which one's gonna be easier for us to battle our Pokemon?
Once again, I think it's gonna be either one. It's gonna be a toss up.
Oh, bitch.
Well, we'll do some research and we'll talk about it.
We'll look at it. Hey Josh, you got a meme for us? Meme time.
I sure do.
All right, do. What we got here?
Final Fantasy VII, the epic game about the battle between length and girth. And for those who can't see it, it's a visual reference of Sephiroth with his blade, which is considered to be super long, and Cloud with his iconic Buster Blade.
It's called the Buster Blade, right?
It is called the Buster Blade, yes.
All right, I'm gonna pitch you the episode title. Let me hear how you like it. I'm gonna call it "I'm a Buster Blade" because it's like I'm a bust.
Yes.
Okay.
I allow it.
I'm glad you got the joke after I explained it.
I got it before, I got it before you explained it, and I was like shaking my head. Yes. So.
It's gonna depend upon how I spell it. I think I'm gonna do Amma like IMMA, and then Buster, bus. ... Tersword. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out in post. We usually don't talk titles in the episode, but I was like, no, I have to say this before I forget. Hey, one last thing before we go. We're going to rank every Final Fantasy that's on this list. That's right. All the numbered ones are here. All right, let's do this. All right, we are going to rank every Final Fantasy, all the numbered ones at least. If there are any others on here that stand out, we'll put them on here. We've played all, if not most of these, or if I haven't, Josh has. So let's jump into it. All right, Final Fantasy. I remember this one. Your characters aren't named, right?
Yep, you're just the Warriors of Light.
You're the Warriors of Light. Turn-based.
I mean, Nick, it started all. It has to be S tier. It's
No,
literally is.
no,
Yes, Nick.
no. You are the
Without-
biggest pussy. If you
Okay.
you started it all. S tier.
Okay, fine. A tier. Nick, do you know why they called it Final Fantasy?
Because it was like the game. It was like, I forget who I learned this from, but Square Enix. It was like they're gonna close. So they're like, all right, Final Fantasy,
Basically, yes.
and it saved them.
Yes, I give it A tier, Nick. It started the franchise.
But was it doing anything that JRPGs wasn't doing? Was it a crazy ass good ass story? Was the combat good?
Yeah. The twist of this, Nick, was that the first boss you fought is actually the last boss. It had your own character creation system where you could choose between a red mage, a blue mage, a white mage, a monk, a fighter. You could actually get there was an optional at the time upgrade where you could turn them into a knight, into a priest, into a wizard, it was different for JRPGs at the time.
I'm thinking it's more of a C.
Yeah, you sick son of a bitch. Let's go in between. Let's go B.
All right. Final Fantasy II. I think this was the same story where the characters weren't named, or were they named at this point?
These were all named. They're children of, I forget which town. It's Furion, Guy, and Maria.
Is it an S tier because they made it a sequel?
No.
They were like, it's a sequel.
The only difference it had, other than it was experiences, like, is rather than just leveling up and having each character having like a set weapon choice, everybody could do everything, but you actually had to put experience towards what they could do. So you actually, if you wanted them to be really good and proficient at using fire magic, they had to constantly use it in battle. If they wanted them to be proficient in shields, they had to be equipped with shields and using them, so on and so forth.
So where does it go?
I'd give it a C, because really, other than that, it wasn't much of a difference. The story was kind of good, but you find out like one of the baddies is actually Maria's brother, who was taken and had amnesia. That's where they started the amnesia trope.
Fucking amnesia. Final Fantasy III.
Basically the same thing as Final Fantasy I, just a little more refined. Honestly, it could probably go into C or D. People clamor to it a little too much, but in my opinion, it wasn't that good.
This one didn't come out in the States, right? Not originally.
No, not originally. No, it didn't come until, for us, I don't think it was until the 3DS, or I mean, the DS when they remade it into 3D is when we finally actually saw it have a US release.
What are some knocks against it?
It's not as common in the West. It's basically one. I mean, literally, it's basically one.
Wait, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. C or D?
D.
4. This is where Nick can start to come in. This is where I can. This is where I can hop in.
Honestly, this is the one that started it all for me, at least. I mean, we have Cecil, we have Rosa, we have Kane, we have the bromance, the breakup. I mean, what is there not to love about this? The Dark Knight turning into the Paladin.
So for our audio listeners, this is Final Fantasy IV. In the States, in the early mid 90s, this was considered Final Fantasy II in the States. Mm-hmm. This is the one involving Cecil, the Dark Knight, your buddy Kane, who I believe is also a Dark Knight of some sort.
Dragoon.
A Dragoon. I'm sorry. The lore. This feels like the first like epic story they told.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the gathering of the 4 crystals of Earth. You find out, your brother is actually the main bad guy the whole time. You find out that your father was I forget what they call him. It's Mudarian, I think is what it's called.
The combat was fun. I think the boss fights were challenging. The music is really, really good. The characters are probably, I mean, it's the first time.
They're most memorable.
It's the first time they're actually memorable, I feel like. Everybody knows Ryda. Everybody knows Tella. Everybody knows Rose. Kane and Cecil stick out. I'm sorry.
Fusoya.
Fusoya. Yes, Josh. Yes.
Everybody. I remember him.
The twin.
I remember.
It's Edward. Edward the Bard.
Sid, the architect of airships.
That doesn't count. They're all fucking Sids. I think you can stick this one in the A.
Yes.
All right, Final Fantasy VIII is going up to the A. Just in case you missed it, Final Fantasy 1's in the B, 2 is in the C, 3 is in the D, and 4 is in the A. Up next, Final Fantasy V. I honestly don't know much about this one.
So this, I feel like this one also got skipped over for a lot of people. I don't think it really got hugely popular until it got remade for the Game Boy Advance. It does still involve the crystals. This is like when we start to heavily so for the longest time. So Final Fantasy 1 had the Warriors of Light. Each of them had their own crystals, and basically each dungeon you went into, you basically brought in the light of those crystals from the fiends. 2 and 3, or 2 definitely skipped over it. 3 I think had a little bit to do with it. 4 heavily involved the crystals. With this one, they were still involved, but the difference is the crystals were being destroyed, and each crystal has powers for the earth. So, like, for example, the very first crystal that gets destroyed is the wind crystal. So when it gets destroyed, you can't really go fast in your ship anymore. You actually have to rely on like real power and stuff. So it's just not as memorable. I feel like a lot of people skipped over it because when it comes to the original, at least 6, so the original 16, 32 bits, 6 and 4 are the two that get clamored to the most.
To get all the love. So where would you put 5?
I'm going to throw 5 into the C.
You like that word clamor. Did you just find that word?
Yeah, I just did.
Final Fantasy VI. So I've never played this, but this is the one with the Kefka fight, right?
Yep, it's got Kefka. It's got the Ghost Train. I mean, it's very memorable. It's up there with 4. Like, if people... Honestly, I feel like if there's ever a toss-up and people are like Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VI, I feel like majority of the fans go to 6.
I do think I agree because I remember as a younger gentleman getting annoyed when people like would compare them and be like, oh no, I'm taking 6 over 4 every time.
But it's understandable too because there's so many good things about 6.
I remember the score like really standing out from the times that I listened to it. Or the times that it would pop up.
And the opening is probably one of the best openings we've had in all of them. So, like, for Final Fantasy IV, the opening is Cecil reminiscing about what he just did with his crew to get one of the crystals. They basically forced their way and murdered innocent people to get to the crystal.
Wait,
where with this...
Okay, you're talking about 4. Okay.
Yeah, whereas 6, the opening is I forget her name off the top of my head, but you're with Biggs and Wedge, and you're in mechs. And you're forcing your way through a town, basically, to get to one of the crystals, which you find out is actually a Esther, which is like their versions of summons.
I forget that this one was very like steampunky.
Yeah, and those mechs are so fucking cool.
Is this our first S?
Honestly, A or S. This is really good.
I think it could be I feel like it would be an S.
Well, Nick, this is our tier list. Do you think it should be an S?
I know, but
I think it's an A. I don't think it's an S.
All right.
Because it's good, but it's also one of the ones that I can't sit here and tell you like every bit and piece of it by heart, like I can with 4, 7, and 8.
So then Final Fantasy VI is going into the A. I may have said it already, but where did I put 5? 5 is under C. I said it already, but I'm just recapping for those at home. Final Fantasy VII.
Nick, we played the shit out of this game to the point where we had to actually buy a whole new set of disc.
We did because the disc broke right around the time Aerith dies, and like the screen would just go black.
Yep, same thing with Resident Evil 3.
Yes, I remember this. Oh man, like this was the jump to 3D. This was, Cloud, but like this is arguably the most memorable cast in all of Final Fantasy.
Also the first non-Nintendo game.
First non-Nintendo game. This is them jumping over to Sony. This is Square also. Like it wouldn't become a series now, but like the fact that like 7 is in its own series now, like broken off from the rest of Final Fantasy. It's just kind of it's sickening. It's sickening, but it makes sense.
It's honestly, what is there not to like about 7? Yeah, I know. Like for the people who are like, oh, people talk about it way too much. I agree. It does get overtalked. However, it sticks out.
I think it's a little.
It's
I think it's a little bloated in the middle.
It does. It does get bloated in the middle. But I feel like for the content that's there and what they introduced, I mean, just the Golden Saucer alone is just a plethora of amazing things we can do. There are so many cool arcade games, the roller coaster ride, the dates you can have with all the characters. I didn't even know you could go on the date with Barrett. Did you?
I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know that. You can actually go on that date with Barrett. It's in the game. It's not a mod.
I think, yeah. So it gets bloated in the middle. I think after you go through Cloud and Tifa's old town, I'm forgetting the name again.
Nibelheim.
Middleheim.
Nibelheim.
Sexy. Nibelheim. After you get through Nibelheim, a lot of it just feels like it's just padding.
I feel like once you get the little Bronco, which is when you get Sid and the little airship, the little tiny one, I think I agree. That's where it's like it comes very convoluted, and it's just the same thing. And I think it doesn't pick back up until after the City of the Ancients.
And I also think the fact that you can miss Yuffie and Vincent is kind of crazy to me as well.
Well, now I mean, obviously with the remakes and the rebirths,
we're talking
they're going to be canon.
We're talking.
I know.
We're talking this one. The remake and rebirth can hold off for a minute, Josh.
I can agree though. The fact that you could miss 2 of the characters, it blows my mind.
It's S, right? It's got to be S.
Yeah, it has to be S.
It's S. Up next, my personal favorite. I'll die on this hill. Final Fantasy VIII.
Honestly, it's up there too. The opening credit is fucking fantastic. Cypher and Squall fighting each other. The theory alone blows my mind.
It's very. So I forget. Was this 98? I forget what year this one was.
This one I think is 98 or 99.
So this it's very like 90s punk. Like it feels cool. Like all these characters feel really cool. You feel like you want to hang out with all of them. I really liked the way the caste system was used in this instead of like the materia system from 7. This one has, I'm trying to remember exactly how it works.
So you had Guardian Forces, which is your summonings.
Right.
You had to have them equipped to be able to do certain abilities, such as like using your items. They had a draw system, so rather than actually having materia, magic,
that's right.
You drew the magic from the enemies, or you could use their abilities to refine items into magic. And then this one actually had a really cool system where every time you leveled up, the enemies around you also leveled up. So even if you're in the very beginning, the very first area, if you're level 99, they're also level 99 and their stats increased. The idea was to use the Guardian Forces to basically draw out the best magic you possibly could and to use the stat bonuses that came from each Guardian Force. So you could have like Ifrit, and he would have a stat boost for HP and for strength. And you would want to use like Flare, for example, on your strength because it would boost it from like level 5 to level 99, so on and so forth.
Right.
It also had the a really weird item system where rather than traditionally where you'd fight or you'd go to shops and buy like a new weapon and a new armor and stuff, armor wasn't a thing. All you had to do was weapons, and you basically built them. You never bought them.
This is all slowly coming back to me. What else was there? I honestly didn't like the 3 party members like directly walking in a line wherever you were going. I thought that was awkward. A weird one. That was awkward.
But that was also the thing at the time though, because Digimon was doing it. I think Persona was that? No, I don't think Persona was at this point. Maybe it was Shin Megami Tensei was doing it. Someone else was also doing it. There's a ton of it going around, but
everybody was doing it.
It
makes up for it with the gun blades. The opening cinematic's really cool.
Literally the first disc in general is so fucking cool. The seed assignment when you're going to Dalton, the the radar. In the opening cinematic is Squall goes up top to like look out. He has the map, folds over. You see the plan, then he looks up and you see the gunfire from the island because they're shooting at you as you're going onto the beach.
I'm probably gonna watch this when we get off of this podcast.
And just that, I forget, it's called The Landing is the song when it's playing the da 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 da. Yeah,
they've got that really good card game.
Yep. I mean,
it's,
and let's not forget the escape when you're running from the X. Was against the X-98, the spider,
the robot spider. Josh,
yes.
Can we let's put this in S.
Nick, I'm fine with that because I'm actually playing it on my Steam Deck right now.
Let's put it in S. Let's do it.
I might pull my Steam Deck just to show you after this. But yeah, I'm literally sitting. I'm actually at that part right now.
People are gonna be so fucking angry, but I don't care.
That's fine. That's fine.
Let's fucking do it. It's our podcast. Final Fantasy IX.
Okay, so with this one, people, or when we talk about the PS1 trilogy, which is 7 through 9, I feel like people clamor to 9 more than the other two.
There's that C word again.
I'm just being honest because it feels like people talk about 9 and like ride its dick more than 7, which blows my mind. Honestly, the story is pretty good. It gets a little confusing at some points, but in my opinion, I don't understand the hype. I've tried to play it, and I've gotten. Well, I think it's like the equivalent of disc 2. Like I've not gotten very far in it before, and I've just never found the appeal to it.
Yeah, you know what? That sounds like a C student to me.
I'm okay with that.
It's not like I've had students who it's like, you're just there. I don't understand what people see in you. See, here you go.
That's how I feel about it.
I think 10. If Final Fantasy 8 is about the coolest people in Final Fantasy 10 is about the sexiest people in Final Fantasy.
Nick, being honest with me, when it came to the voice acting, I feel like some spots were really cringy.
So it was the first one to have full voice acting at the time. And yeah, you know what? Titus, awful. Discord's not picking up any of that, Josh.
I'm glad. You knew exactly what I was doing there.
Waka, I don't know who voiced Waka, but I just remember like it being very hammy.
What are you doing, Mom?
Yeah, what are you doing, Mom? Hey, brother. Kamari, he was
Choppa.
Oh God. I feel like all of the lady characters, the voicing for them was done better. Was a little less cheesy. I did like Yuna's. Were they called Summers? I forget what they were called.
Yeah, she was a summoner.
I liked the story of like, oh hey, we have this summoner. We need to have her gather these summons so she can battle Sin, and then but if she battles Sin, she's going to die. Seymour as the not the main protagonist, but like the semi.
He's the antagonist.
Is he?
Yeah.
I thought Sin was the protagonist.
So Sin is the final boss and is technically antagonist, but as far as like if you had to put like an overarching antagonist that's following you and you're trying to stop them, it's Seymour.
So I always pictured Seymour. You remember like Legend of the Gaia had like the triplets that you fought had I think his name was Sergei. Your blue guy is like opposite dojo guy.
Yeah.
So like they weren't like your main protagonist, but they were like a rival protagonist.
That's where I would agree. That's probably more like it. But as far as like if you had to like put a stamp on it, yes, Sin is the bad guy, but technically Sin is not like I have a plan, I'm going to destroy the world. It's just like, yeah, it's Sin. I'm going to randomly come up and I'm going to come after this town because they've sinned or whatever.
Hey, I'm going to get you, is what he's saying.
Yeah, or Seymour's more like I planned this. I'm going to make Yuna my wife, and I'm going to become her final summon so I can become Sin.
Blitzball is really bad.
It's fun doing it for the story. After that, I hate it.
I think on Blitzball and voice acting alone, I think it can go in the C range.
I'll have to see what you're going to do with X2 then.
So X, we're putting Final Fantasy X in C. X2, I felt like that was an improvement, right?
It was an improvement, at least as far as everything else goes. When it came to battle, though, they had the weird dress system, and that was
Where they changed their clothes and it changed how they battled.
yes.
That's cool. I like that.
And you know what? From this very shy, uh, I just want peace with the world to. Oh, I'm trying to find my boyfriend, and I'm a pop star now, and my ass pops. Look at this.
Hey, pop that summon. Uh, C or D, Josh?
D,
D. All right. Final Fantasy 11, the first go at online.
which is actually really good. I don't know if you've ever tried it before.
I did not. My PS2 was a potato at the time.
What about your Xbox 360?
Nope, never played it on there either. Nope.
So for their first true like multiplayer online game, really good. Tons of cool features. Um, just think WoW, but for Final Fantasy. I enjoyed it for what it was, but really, in at least as far as like if we're going to compare it to like 14, it's not that good. Like, yes, it has a good clamoring to it. Yes, it worked on the PS2, it worked on the 360, worked on PC, but I believe they were all different servers, so you couldn't even play with each other. Where with Final Fantasy 14, no matter what console you're playing it on, or what if you're playing it on PC, it lets you play it. I think PS3 now doesn't work anymore since the servers shut down. And I think the last DLC they did for it was like the first or second. I can't remember. It's been a while. But if I had to pick, I'm gonna go and throw it in the seas.
Throw it in the seas.
Yeah, throw it in the seas.
All right, Final Fantasy 11 is going in the seas. 12. So 12 is interesting because that's the first time they got away from the stand there turn based, right?
Yep. So it's still
in the main line, at least in the main line.
Right. So it still used the active time battles, which was introduced in 4, but it was not like Nick said, it wasn't like a turn based. It was everybody is doing something simultaneously, you and the enemies. It also did something a little different with how you traveled. So we're used to it being very like open world. You can go wherever you want as far as like if it's accessible. With this, they started to block out areas you could go to. It was a little more on the linear side for the most part.
This also came out like right at the end of the PlayStation 2's life cycle. I want to say like this might have been 2000, like late 2005, early 2006.
Yep.
And I don't think it ever came out anywhere else, right?
Like as far as console wise,
I don't think it ever got a release anywhere or a re-release.
well, they got the remasters of it. So like the PS4, Xbox One.
Oh, is that
That's called it's called the Zodiac Age, which is basically the international version. Which there's tons of difference because the international version had like the coolest secret boss fight in it. You also could fight all the judges basically. It had a ton of cool things. Really though, 12 isn't much different.
It's also set in the world of tactics, right?
Yep, Irvine, or the Kingdom of Irvine.
I mean, I feel like it was real. Like I remember watching you or Jake play it and thinking like, this looks fine. This isn't anything I'm gonna go play.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's definitely one of the. It's a very long game. First off, it takes a long God, halfway through the game, I think I was already like 20 hours into it. Because there are spots you definitely have to grind. If you're not high enough level and have good stats, you're gonna get your shit pushed in.
What are you thinking, B?
Yeah, I'm thinking B. I mean, it's good. It's definitely one of the harder Final Fantasies, in my opinion. Now that they've re-released the international version worldwide on the modern consoles, it's a little easier to get stuff. But I think when it originally came out, it was a super hard game.
All right, okay, we're getting in, so we're moving Final Fantasy 12 into the B range. Now we're getting into the weirdness. I remember how weird so we're getting into the 13 games, and I remember when they were like, okay, we're doing Final Fantasy 13, Final Fantasy 13 Versus, and then like I just remember that being very confused watching that E3 where all of these were announced.
Right, I do remember. So yeah, I definitely. I think was it with the Versus one that ended up being 14 or not 14, 15. Is that Versus or was that the other one I'm thinking of?
I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even
I just
tell you.
remember
Dude.
I remember seeing the trailer, and it's basically 15. But anyway, so yeah, this is where it gets really weird. And even then, 13 it's in itself is, oh god. Okay, let's just start. 13. I remember pre-ordering this and getting it the day before it came out on the Xbox 360. Do you know why I remember this, Nick?
Why?
The same day I got this was the same day that um God damn it, what's that song from it's got Bruno Mars. It was Bruno Mars's first featured song.
Not the latest.
Nothing on You.
Nothing on you,
On You.
baby.
Yeah. That song just came out. It's the only reason why I remember that.
Weird two things to relate to each other. How's the game, Josh?
Okay, so leveling system, it definitely went away from its. So obviously with like 12 was a little different. It had like a tile system where based on what your character was doing in their job, they had a tile set, and each tile had a certain amount of points that you needed to unlock it. That included abilities, stats, weapons, you name it, you got it. 13, on the other hand, they had the Crystallium. Crystallium is basically every enemy you kill gives you a certain amount of crystal points. You need a certain amount of crystal points to go up the crystal. And the only way you can get past a certain point in the crystal is if, one, you get to the end of it, and two, you have to level up your crystal. And the only way that happens is by playing through the story. So there are points where you would get like maxed out, and then it would stop, and you couldn't go any farther until you get further into the story.
Of course, Final Fantasy becomes a teenager, and it just becomes this annoying, obnoxious thing.
Oh, that's not even the most annoying part, though, Nick. But
Where-
go ahead, finish your thought.
No, go ahead. What's the most annoying thing?
The fucking characters. Lightning is the only one I actually like.
I remember this. I remember this in reviews, like saying that people hated everyone but Lightning.
Hope is a little fucking bitch the whole time. Oh, Snow killed my mommy, but at the same time, it's my own fault. But I'm going to blame Snow, and I'm going to kill him. And then I'm going to redeem myself and say I'm not going to kill him. Vanille, I want the world to be peaceful and loving. Snow, I'm going to save Sarah. Saz, I want my son back. I want my family back. Lightning, dude, I'm going to fucking burn the world. Thank you. That's what I want. I want somebody who's just going to be realistic about it.
Lightning, I love you already. Where are you putting 13?
D.
D? What is this one under this? This is 13-2?
13-2. Okay. Real quick synopsis for you, Nick.
Really quick. Really quick.
Takes place directly right after 13. And what happens is, at the end of 13, the world is saved, Lightning's there. 13-2, Lightning isn't there, but Sarah remembers Lightning being there. And it's basically time travel and hopping through different timelines of different events that happen. So as you're doing one event and you do something in that timeline, it can split off into like 3 other different timelines and you can visit. And you're basically trying to prevent chaos from destroying Valhalla, which Lightning is protecting right now.
Is it better than 13-1?
Slightly, in my opinion, just because you could get Lightning as a side character and the plot was at least a little better. I'd give it a C.
And then the Final Fantasy 13, Lightning Returns.
Sarah fails to stop chaos. Lightning Returns is Lightning finally decides that she's just going to try to salvage what she can with mankind and put them into a whole separate different world. And you end up just going back and finding all the other characters from 13 and 13-2 and basically fighting them because they're corrupt. I leave it a D.
All right. We got through 13. Final Fantasy 13, Lightning Returns, it gets a D. Final Fantasy 14.
S. There's no question in it. It's by far one of the best MMOs out there. It has a huge clamoring to it.
Even though it started off weak?
Even though it started off weak, it redeemed its... Like, for a game that started off weak, and the fact that they included into the story saying, oh, this world was destroyed because basically we sucked at what we did, but they made it as the plot of, okay, well, basically Bahamut is destroying the world, and rather than trying to fix this world, I'm going to send you back in time and make things better. Boom. They did that. Not only did they do it, but they put it into the plot, and the plot is fantastic. All the DLC is fantastic. The characters in it, the stories. There's not a single bad thing in 14, in my opinion, since they redeemed themselves. It is an S rank.
It's going up to that. So it's joined 7 and 8 up there, which make 15. Nah. Perfect segue because we're on 15. Final Fantasy 15. This is the one of the Final Fantasies I've actually ever paid for. This is the bro road trip. You protecting the prince. He's to get married. The combat is the real-time combat. I remember the food in this also looking really good. This game's almost, I think, 8 years old at this point.
Yep. And the last DLC, I think, came out it took a long time. It was like 2020. It was like right before COVID, I'm pretty sure, when it finally came out.
I thought it was fun. Did not really remember. Like, the bromance is memorable, but otherwise...
The bromance and the fighting system is probably about it. Beyond that, it was one of those games where it's like, okay, it's a hit or miss, and the DLC was not that good. It wasn't really tied into the story. They're all their own separate things. I mean, it is tied to the story-wise, but as far as like gameplay, they're completely separate things, and it doesn't affect the main story.
I think it's a B.
Yeah, I would say B.
Just because, I mean, it was so long between all the 13s and this one. This was originally a Versus game or some shit.
Yeah.
The most recent main line Final Fantasy 16.
I absolutely loved it. It was Game of Thrones meets Final Fantasy. What was there? I mean, there's so much love with it. The fighting was fantastic. The leveling system's fantastic. You get a fucking dog as a partner, which hasn't happened since Final Fantasy VII.
Okay, where are you putting it?
I honestly putting up there an A. It's really good. I'm not saying it's S rank because it's definitely, there's some pieces missing, but it's really good. Highly recommend playing it if you haven't.
All right, we made it through the main line, so 16 is going up to the A slot. Let's do a few more of these. We don't know all of these, but let's... so Final Fantasy VII Remake.
In my opinion, it's up there in the S rank. They did a fantastic job reintroducing Final Fantasy VII onto a modern system, something that they've been teasing since the PS3's introduction. We finally got it, and it did not let down.
I do think it's cool that after, that PS3 fake out, they finally were like, no, we're
we're really doing it. I thought that was another fake out.
I thought that was really cool. I do think it's kind of weird that you kind of have to have had played Final Fantasy VII to kind of understand some of the stuff that's going on in Remake. But I agree, like, they did the impossible and brought in and remade the first game. Like, yeah, they're breaking it up into chunks. I'm annoyed by that a little bit, but no, I do think it's S tier.
I'm really not upset by it because what Remake was and Rebirth is so far, they're really big games. There's a ton to do to it. And the little bits of nuances they're adding to it, like for Remake example, when you go to the first reactor, you fight the Scorpion bot and you blow up the reactor. The stuff that they built to blow up the reactor wasn't enough to actually cause damage. It's just supposed to shut it down. And Shinra was like, you know what? Fuck this. Let's just blow this place up. So they took all the bots that were left in the reactor and had them basically destroy everything to make it seem like it's a huge natural disaster. And it's like, that's fucking cool. And the fact that later on then, and that's introduced into the story when Jesse's like, I think I know what the problem was. We need to use this materials instead of like what I just used. This should fix it. It was like, oh, that's really cool. They actually add a little more in depth to it.
I agree. It's an S. Let's move it up. So Final Fantasy VII Remake is S. Rebirth is on here. I don't think there's enough time to really...
No, I'd say leave it as it is right now because there's still a ton to go through.
Right. What is this one again?
That's Crisis Core.
Where do you put Crisis Core?
Crisis Core probably at B, just because we get Zack's story. Zack is, for those who played the original Final Fantasy VII, is who Cloud has been like mimicking basically the whole time. You find out that he's basically like going through Zack's story. So like the whole Nibelheim story, Cloud was there. He was one of the soldiers that was on guard duty. He never made it to the first soldier, but he ends up having like a split psyche because he watched Zack die in front of him, and it just tells the story of how Zack became first soldier, and then talks about how it basically builds up to that mission, and then the escape.
I'm gonna just move tactics up to S because I already know you're gonna say that. Is Tactics Advance also an S?
No, that is, in my opinion, it's a D.
Okay. Well, tell us about that real quick, and then we'll do one more.
I put it in the D because they included a weird system with this one, card system, where there were like rules. So like you get yellow carded if you do one thing, which means basically like you get like a warning. And then if you do another thing, which is like you can't do this, it's a red card, you basically lose that character, you lose the game.
I remember this. I remember
I
this. It was all coming back to me.
hated that because there's somewhere it's like, oh, don't use attacks. And it's like, okay, it's all my characters do are attacks. What am I supposed to do?
That is
So stupid.
That is a really weird system. All right, one more. What's this one with Vincent on it?
That is Dirge of Cerberus. So it's a sequel to Final Fantasy VII, and it follows our good man Vincent as he's trying to stop a organization from summoning the end of the world. I think it's they're summoning like Neo Bahamut or something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they're doing something, and it involves Vincent.
It's a third-person shooter, right?
Third-person shooter. And you do run into the cast. Like at one point, I think you play a mission with Cloud.
In that very weird time where every game thought they needed a third-person shooter.
Honestly, I think that it's more of a joke at this point. But I think someone tried comparing Dirge of Cerberus to Shadow the Hedgehog.
That one, and then what was the other one? StarCraft Ghost.
Oh yeah,
that one never saw the light of day though, sadly. Where do you put Dirge of Cerberus?
That's a C. It's okay, but it's a completely different game. It is not your mom and dad's Final Fantasy game. For sure.
Do you see any others that you want to touch on down here, or are we out of here?
No. I mean, if we're gonna do anything, the last one does that say Strangers of Paradise?
So small. Yep.
I would put that in A.
Strangers of Paradise in A?
Yep. So it's the same team that did the Ninja Gaiden. And it's a alternative timeline to Final Fantasy 1.
Oh.
You play as the main bad guy, basically, who ends up not being bad, but you build your team of your party. You're fighting off all these like fiends, but you're starting to realize that you have to absorb the chaos of your world to save it, and that's how you become the main bad guy of Final Fantasy.
Isn't that? It's also really. I remember hearing something about like it just being very corny.
It can be very corny in spots, but it's just very like you think it's just gonna be like a side game that doesn't really matter, but it's one of those cool side games where they actually made it like a true nuance of what it was meant to be, as far as you live long enough you be the hero long enough to become the villain truly.
I can't believe it's been 2 years since that. I saw one more. I just wanted to say fuck you too. Hold on.
Crystal Chronicles, yes.
Crystal Chronicles goes straight to the D. I remember that at the time. So sorry, Strangers in Paradise is an A. Crystal Chronicles is in D because I remember everyone's like, Final Fantasy's finally coming to GameCube, and that was the hunk of shit that we got.
I mean, it had some cool ideas. I just didn't like the whole carrying the pot of life with you, and you had to stay in that circle.
You had to stay in that circle and hope and like lure the enemies into your circle to battle them. It was awful. It was awful.
It was so bad. Bad.
So here is our official tier list. I'm not going to read all these off. You can go check them out over on our socials. Yeah, hey, I'll read the S tier. So S tier has Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Final Fantasy Tactics. Woo!
Yeah.
Look at them go.
Kingdom of Ivalice.
Well, hey, everybody. It's been the show. We ran a little long today, but hey, I like doing tier lists. They're a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do more of those in the future. Some quick show notes. We've got some guests coming up the next 2 weeks. We've also got an interview in 3 weeks. So, and we're not going to announce who that's with yet. If you look at the games Josh and I have been playing together or apart from each other, you can kind of piece it together and be, oh, it's that person with that game. So do your due diligence. You'll find out that way. We'll maybe announce it next week. Hey, you can find me, Nick, on Twitter at That Kaufman. You can also find me on the Twitch and the YouTube at Nick Fat Knight. Josh, where can the people find you?
You can find me anywhere. I'm Josh Saying, and I will have some posts up on our website. I promise.
God damn it, you better. You can also find we both do reviews over on Game Chronicles. I've got some satire pieces going up on Hard Drive Magazine, so go check those out. Hey, we've got a website, smashinggametime.com. Go check it out. Look for those articles. Maybe you'll find one of those mysterious Josh articles. Who knows?
The world may never know.
The world may never know. Podcast is available anywhere you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, YouTube podcast, YouTube proper. Hey, fuck the algorithm. Tell a friend. That's right. Word of mouth is king in this motherfucker. Thank you to Alex Marvin Clark for our outro song, Hunt Him Down. We've got a link to his SoundCloud down in the show notes. Go check those out. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything. Oh, Smashing Game Time. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. So we're slowed down on that. And I actually wrote about that in my blog, in my journal this week. So go check that out. Hey, everybody. This has been Smashing Game Time. I hope you all had a smashing great time. We'll see each and every one of you next time.